Hey guys, Aaron from ADH Gaming here. So today we're membering Mario 64. So we're going back a few years. The N64 had only been out for a few months. I believe PlayStation had been out for a little while at this point. Now the problem was the N64, when it came out at launch, it was about £250 if I recall. That was excluding a game. So back then the games were going for 50, 60 quid, which is pretty expensive. Nowadays people complain about game prices, but for how much development is put into them, you know, I kind of think it works out a bit better. But in any case, so yeah, 250 quid for an N64, 60 quid for Mario 64, you're looking at over £300. PlayStation 1 had been out for a while. You could pick one up for a lot less, plus it included demos, maybe a game, I can't remember. I couldn't afford an N64, but I was looking through the local paper and they actually had classified ads in them back then. Nowadays it's all, you know, on eBay and things like that. So yeah, there was an advert in the local paper, so I give this guy a call just to make sure it's all legit. And yeah, he said he'll come round to my house and show me it's all working. So later on that day, he popped around with an N64, Mario 64. It was all boxed, all good condition. Set it up to my TV, and yeah, I was playing Mario 64. Game that I'd only seen on one demo unit in a shop, where unfortunately they wouldn't let me play it, and TV shows which covered like Space World in Japan, things like that. Yeah, so I had Mario 64. I loved it from the instant I was playing it, just like the first big 3D world game I'd got into. So yeah, I give this guy 250 quid, so that was the N64 and Mario 64. And I was pretty happy with that. I'd saved, you know, over 50 quid. So the guy goes, and I pretty much spent the rest of the day playing Mario 64. Now, unfortunately for myself and many others, Nintendo actually reduced the price of the N64 by about £100 a few weeks later after I purchased mine. Thankfully though, Nintendo did send me a N64 joypad. A few friends were actually getting Mario Kart 64 instead, so I wasn't too happy, but considering I had no receipt because I bought it through a classified ad, it wasn't so bad. Now what I used to do was explore. I still do it actually. I explored everything in like the first level. I pretty much just spent, you know, my time finding all the coins, all the secrets before, you know, moving on, or at least doing as much as I could before I could move on. And yeah, so I did that, and over the next week I believe I finished the main game. Now when I say finish the main game, it was more collecting the minimum amount of stars to come up against Bowser for the first time. So I did that. It took me about a month to collect all 120 stars. I was at college at the time, so it was difficult to play. And after that first month, all 120 stars, unfortunately getting Yoshi at the top of the castle was a bit of a disappointment. But me and a friend, we were quite big fans of Nintendo at that point. We'd go to the college library and we'd search all kinds of websites, especially IGN back then, which was called n64.com, and they would have like cheats on there to get Luigi. Now obviously Luigi wasn't in the game, it was just photoshopped or whatever was back then. A lot of it also was using a game cheat cartridge. I think it was called Game Shark back then. And yeah, you could change the colour of Luigi, but yeah, it was pretty obvious there was no way to get Luigi in the game. And there was actually rumours of a Mario 64 Part 2 which had two-player co-op with Luigi and Mario, which again never really surfaced if it was actually real at all. Yeah, so after that 1 month, I was getting a bit bored with Mario 64, so I spent a lot of my time either speedrunning certain levels, especially the Bomb Battlefield and the Bowser levels. They're great for speedrunning. I'll have to go back to it at some point. I really enjoy playing those Bowser levels, but even back then, people did that type of thing. Yeah, at other times I spent trying to glitch the game out. I remember jumping through the ceiling in the castle to get onto the top layer. There was also a way of getting on top of the castle where Yoshi is by doing special flips up onto the side of the wall. Only managed it a couple of times. It was pretty difficult, if I'm being honest. But yeah, Mario 64, it was a good game, and back then the N64 really didn't have many titles on it. A lot of the games took at least 2 or 3 more months to come out, and even longer to get decent games. For one of the first 3D games of its type, I believe the only other game really was Tomb Raider, and there might have been a game called Croc around the time. Mario 64 held up in the graphics, the controls were good, music in the game was great and still is. Even going back to it now, whilst the camera system is a bit flaky, it still holds up and is completely playable. I eventually got round to playing the DS version of Mario 64. I must admit I was a bit disappointed though. Starting off as Yoshi, I liked the fact other characters were in the game, but it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like the Mario 64 I'd grown to love really. So I've gone back to the Virtual Console version occasionally. I've got it on my Wii U actually. If you've never played Mario 64, give it a shot. It's not looking likely that Nintendo are going to do a remaster, so your best bet is to pick it up on the Virtual Console, as I said, and enjoy it. Anyway, that just about wraps things up for today. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed watching the video. Thanks.